How do we heal our body?
You heal your body by first healing your mind. We always say we want to be healthy. Oh, it's 2023, I want to be healthy. Well, what's the first four letters in the word healthy? Heal. You need to heal your mind first before you can have a healthy body. When your body was just a manifestation of your thoughts and your emotions. You see, like people die of stress all the time. People have heart attacks of stress, through stress. Stress is just a thought. My physical heart will stop beating because of my thoughts. That's how powerful your thoughts were. So that's why I always say it's so important for you to heal yourself, heal your traumas, go back and figure out, why am I the way I am today? When you heal the mental plane, the physical plane will take care of itself. As above, so below.
Today on the Becoming Unique podcast, I have such an amazing guest for you guys by the name of Derick. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being with us. I'm so excited to speak with you today. Oh, I discovered you on Instagram and I was just like, I got to talk to this guy. So I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy you just as I enjoy watching your, 1-minute clips on Instagram. So, yeah. So before we even get started today, I would like for you to tell everyone, who is Derick?
Oh, goodness. That's a good question. Sometimes I ask myself that. I always tell people I'm basically a human being who's trying to figure out this thing called life. How I got to do what I'm doing now. I grew up in the sports world, played 8 years for the Harlem Globetrotters, traveled all around the world, was able to gain some valuable experiences that gave me a unique perspective. And through some hardships and tough times in my life, it forced me to kind of figure out who I am and what I'm here to do. And through that, I achieved this sense of liberation. And now I'm here to help everybody else experience what I've experienced. So that's it in a nutshell.
Oh, so cool.
Cool. Thank you.
I love that you say you played for the Harlem Globetrotters, if I can say it right. So you were like doing like tricks and stuff like that with your sports?
Yeah. So I was, I played at a college called the College of New Jersey, and had dreams and aspirations and wanted to be a professional basketball player. And things didn't work out, but then things worked out. And before I knew it, now here I was playing with the same team that actually introduced me to the game of basketball. When I was 7 years old, my parents took me to go see the Globetrotters in Rochester, New York. And that's when I fell in love with the game of basketball. So I got to do that for 8 years, go to 70 different countries, got to be on Good Morning America, the Today Show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Which I was not smarter than a fifth grader, but I got to do a lot of cool things because of the game of basketball.
Oh my goodness, that's completely cool. You had a beautiful start to your journey.
Yes, no, for sure. I've been very fortunate and very, very blessed.
Very, very, very nice. So self-care has been such a huge conversation on the Becoming Unique podcast. And for me, self-care involves affirmations, a part of my self-care rituals. And I have been asking all of my guests this season, do you have an affirmation that you would like to share with us, to kind of motivate everybody or give everybody like a little twist of the words to work with. But what's the affirmation, one of your go-to affirmations?
Yeah, it's really three that I lump up into one, and it's I'm whole, I'm worthy, I'm enough. I'm whole, I'm worthy, I'm enough. And those are really, when you understand kind of the psychological tactics of the ego, the human ego, it wants you to think that you are not whole, that you are not worthy, and that you are not enough. So those are my three go-to. I try to repeat them every time that I walk through a doorway, whether it's getting in my car, whether it's leaving my house, whether it's going to my closet. Because over time, I'm telling myself this over 200, 300 times a day. And there'll be enough times in the day that I may forget that I am whole, that I am worthy, that I am enough. And by affirming this over and over again, I mean, as you know, the power of affirmation, the power of suggestion, you start to believe it. So those are my go-to three that I lump into one.
I love it. I'm whole, I'm worthy, I'm enough. Because I usually just stick with I'm enough. So I like that you said I'm whole, I'm worthy, I'm enough. I'm whole, I'm worthy, I'm enough. I like that. I love that.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So so today I'm looking at your shirt, and this is a shirt that I believe you wear all the time. It's called Life is Mental.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life is mental. Like that quote, that statement is so dynamic. Like, did you like trademark that? Is that like yours?
Yeah. It's mine. I don't know how I came about it. I don't know where it came about, but I just sat and thought one day, I'm like, wait a minute, everything is really taking place in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I don't like about someone, what I do like about someone, it's really not them. It's what I'm conjuring up inside of here. And I realize it's like, even on a spiritual level, you understand the mental plane comes before the physical plane. I'm like, our life is mental. This physical stuff is actually just a reflection of what we're thinking. So this is where I came up with it. And I realized, I don't know if I knew, but at that moment I was like, I got to trademark this, because this is, if more people knew this. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so true, because I listen to so many books, podcasts, and everyone's saying that in big, long 1-hour podcasts, big, books. It's saying the 3 words that you just wrote in one statement. Life is mental.
Yeah,
Life is mental. And you summed up like literally hours of listening. Time that I've been listening to over and over, like throughout the years. It's a different voice, but same story. And
sure.
Everyone on, that is saying the same thing. Life is truly mental.
Yes. Yes.
So I would love to know, what is your, definition of the meaning of life? Outside, like we understand that it starts here, but like, what is life like in the whole big like capsule?
It's a good question, Unique. I look at it and I say, we think life usually is the things that are like great times and we had fun. It's like, no, the whole journey. I always say you have a start and you have an end date, right? The birth and the death. Everything in between is just this experience that we measure by how we feel. And that's what life is. Life is about you experiencing situations and people and the feelings that it creates. And I always try to tell people, it's like, why do you think you love having children, or why you love going on vacations or certain foods that you eat? It's because of the feeling. It's the energy that it creates, that you feel through emotion of that experience or that relationship. So that's why I try to tell people, when you understand that, your life really is about you enjoying all of it, the good or the bad. Like, you're supposed to enjoy all of it because all of it was a part of the whole experience. So not sure if I really answered your question, but to me, it's about this whole journey. That's life, experiencing all of it, good or bad.
You totally answered my question. You totally did, because you understood that, it's all about experiencing life, all about understanding that this is a journey, and we do have a start and finish date. And also sometimes people are just trying to dodge this finish date, consuming their mind with the finish date, and like, just enjoy the moment that we in now, this moment. So I love that you have this beautiful grasp on, on the way you look at life, and between understanding that life is mental, understanding that, we do have a start and finish date, and to experience life while we're in it right now. What was have you always been in this place, or did you have to get to this place?
I think about this often. Growing up, I was always the type to, like, if someone told me the sky is blue, I wanted to know why it was blue, and I wanted to know how it got to be blue, and would it always. So I was always been inquisitive. I always would ask questions, and I didn't realize at the time, the way my mind worked when I was little, I was asking questions like, why am I a human being? Will I always be human? What is this that's asking the question? My questions were always deeper. And then back in 2018, 2019, I got involved with a business partner, and my family and I moved down to Naples, Florida, had plans of growing this business with this business partner. But 3 months in, this guy ended up stealing everything from us, stole money from us, stole cars, ruined our credit. Now here we are. We have nothing. We have nothing. I'm telling you, Unique, when I tell you we had nothing, like literally like the last $200 in our account, nothing. I got 2 little kids. My wife's looking at me like, what in the world has happened? And I'm that guy who, if I saw this happen on TV or something, I'd be like, how did this guy let this happen to him?
Yeah.
We decided to move back to Indiana. 365 days later, we moved back to Indiana, and I get a knock on the door, and it's the FBI. The FBI comes and sits in my living room for 4 hours. And they're like, we're not after you, but we know the guy who you were with. That's who we want to know. Tell us everything. Before you know it, now I'm walking around with another cell phone that the FBI gave me, a fake email address. I have to meet them once a week at an undisclosed location. And I woke up and I'm like, how did I get to this place? Like how did my life, and I would wake up every morning crying. And one morning I sat on the edge of the bed and I heard this voice say, change the way you look at it. And that was enough for me to be like, oh, wait, it's really not what I'm saying it is. Sorry, it's not actually what it is. It's what I'm saying it is. I can shift it using this higher faculty of my mind called perspective and change the way I experience this whole thing. So that was what I tell people in 2019 was really when I began to remember what I already knew and kind of awaken. And this version that you see now in 2023, like that was when the flame was lit back in 2019.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Like you just gave us a movie just now.
You know, it's funny you say that because when the FBI was sitting in my living room, they would stop me and they were like, I hope you figure out who's going to play you in this movie because this is a movie of what you're telling us. I'm like, well, thank you, but I wish it wasn't my life. But now I'm grateful I can say, because I'm telling you, Unique, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now.
Yeah. There's a guy I listen to, a podcaster. His name is Ed Milet. Do you listen to him?
Oh, yep.
And he always says, life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. I don't know if it's his quote, but he just always says it. So I resonate with, when I say that quote, I think about him. So, and, this is a perfect example of, sometimes when bad things happen, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And it's up to us to kind of push through and then kind of figure out, like when we look back, we were like, oh, I kind of needed that to happen to push me. And that's what it is. Sometimes it's about pushing you to the place that you need to get to. And
absolutely.
So, oh my goodness, I absolutely love this story. And I feel, and you said 2019, and I feel like that also was a time for me when I started my Becoming Unique journey as well. And I literally, it was January of 2019. I had started a YouTube channel at that time. I was like, I'm going to do YouTube. And I remember saying this, and I made my email Becoming Unique 19, because I was like, it's the year 19, and this is when I'm starting my journey. So I just kind of resonate when you said 2019. I was like, oh, that's the year I kind of officially stepped into my journey.
I love that. Yes.
Oh my goodness. So life is meant to. I know we talked about it like right at the top of the show, but can you dig into that a little bit more for me?
Yeah. So when I told you that I heard that voice tell me that like change the way you look at it, I started to question. Let me go back first. When I got done with the Globetrotters in 2014, I started a business of training basketball players, teaching them how to play and develop their skill with NBA, WNBA, little kids. And I noticed that working with these NBA players versus a guy who maybe didn't make it to the NBA, their skill set really wasn't that big of a difference. And I would just sit here and study them, and I talk to them, ask them questions, and I realized the good from what we call the great, the only separation between them was their mindset. That was it. So because I'm naturally just a curious person, I'm a seeker of knowledge, I started to ask myself in 2019, like, what is it? What is this thing called the mind? What is it? Like, how does it work? And how does it work within other people? And I went on a journey. The pandemic happened. I had nothing but time on my hands. It started with Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, when he passed away, I looked up his favorite books and I got like his top 14 books he's ever read. And I just started reading them, like binge reading them over and just, and before I knew it, I had read like something like 100 books in the span of like 4 months. Because I was just reading. Yeah. And through that, it was like this expansion took place. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I know how to help human beings. I know how to get them to use this thing called the mind to live the life exactly what they've been destined to live and how to create the life that they want. And that's when this whole thought of life is mental. It's like, okay, let's not worry about it, because people don't realize we live on three different planes of existence simultaneously: the spiritual plane, the mental plane, the physical plane, spirit, mind, body. Most of us have no idea that the spiritual plane exists. And then maybe we might be aware of our thoughts a little bit, but we think the physical plane is like life. But it's like, no, life was taking place above the plane. And, the ancients used to always say, as above, so below, meaning if you took care of the plane above, then the plane below would be fine. So it's like, if I want to change my life, I got to change the way I think. And this is where, life is mental. I'm trying to get people to understand that your life is literally a direct reflection of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. That's it.
Yeah. It's so true. And I can say 5 years ago, I was just flowing with the 3D level of life, getting up, doing the chores, doing this, doing that. And, my mindset was stuck at the level that it was at that moment. Whatever was developed from to child to a mid 40-year-old woman, this was where my mind was at. And, Michelle Obama helped me with it as well too, because that was also around the year when her book came out, Becoming.
Okay.
And in one of her interviews, she said that I hate when people ask children what do they want to be when they grow up, as if growing up is a final destination. It's not a final destination. And that kind of clicked with me, because I grew up and I thought this is life. This is what it is, and stayed there. And when she said that, I was like, that's true. I can keep evolving. I don't have to be here.
Yes.
So, that little statement she said, I was like, that's true. And, and then starting to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and just realizing, like I said, listening to hundreds of hours of people talking and saying the same thing. But to sum it up, life is truly mental. It's just change the mindset, change your life.
That's it. Yeah.
Change the mindset, change your life. When you were speaking just now, you said a quote that I hear a lot. Well, I hear off and on, but it's as above, so below. Can you dig into that quote? Because I kept hearing that. I was like, what does it really mean?
Sure, yeah.
How you explain it, because then, I kind of started getting like the Star David and understanding that triangle upside down and, going, but can you explain it? Because I was sitting there for like years, just listening to people say it over and over again and not really saying, well, what really is it? I'm hearing it, but I'm hearing it on the surface level and not thinking about it on a deeper level. So could you just explain as above, so below?
Yeah. So there's 7 immutable laws that govern this universe. Whether you're a human, whether you're an animal, whether you live on Mars, whether you live on Earth, it does not matter. These 7 universal laws. The second one is the law of correspondence. The law of correspondence states, as above, so below, as above. And what that essentially means is, if we just look at the 3 planes of existence that we live on, the spiritual plane, the mental plane, the physical plane, the top plane, the causal plane, is the spiritual plane. That's pure. That's all knowing, all creativity, infinite knowledge. That is what it is. But then the below is where our thoughts reside on the mental plane. Our minds are supposed to be pure, in line with spirit. But what happens is the ego wedges itself in between. And now the ego is in between the mind and spirit. And now we're taking orders from the mind, the ego, which then project itself down onto this physical body, this avatar that we call life. So I understand as above, so below, as I am on the plane above, I will be on the plane below. So if I want my life, which is on the physical plane, to be pure, that means I actually have to connect with the spiritual plane. Because if I'm connected with the spiritual plane through the mind, now my physical life will only mirror that, because it's a law. It's literally like there's no going around it. So when I understood this saying, this phrase, as above, so below, it changed everything drastically for me. Like if I want to lose weight, or if I want to make more money, if I want to do, all I have to do is go to the plane above and take care of it. And then it has to flow down to the plane below.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for digging deeper into that. Because, I think a lot of times, like even when I started taking yoga, it was like at the end of class, namaste, namaste. And then I'm like, I'm saying namaste for like 2 years. I'm like, what the heck does namaste mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's like a lot. And this goes a lot with us, and just listening to stuff, but we're hearing it on the surface level. We represent it to like, oh, that you say namaste in yoga, but namaste means the light in me honors the light in you. And then once I like opened up that door, I was like, wait a minute, now it means something different instead of that's what you say in yoga,
Right. Yes. It's
to really
yeah.
understand it. And then when I say it outside of yoga a lot of times. I'm like, I look at a person, I'm like, the light in me sees the light in you, namaste. Like I see it for its meaning instead of just, oh, that's the thing you do in yoga.
Yeah. And even on a deeper level, I try to tell people all the time, like you use namaste as an example. All that's essentially saying is I recognize that what I am and what you are the same. They're one.
Exactly.
And that's what love was. That's what love, people think, oh, when I say I love you, that's not what love is. Love is the recognition that there was no separation between you and I. So when I say I love you, that means I'm recognizing that you and I are the same thing and there was no separation. The opposite of that is what the ego creates, to think that there's duality and that we're separate and you're that and I'm this, and you're black and I'm white. And that was the illusion that the ego created.
Yeah. There is so much ego out there. And it's like, so can you give us your definition of the ego?
Yeah. So somebody just asked me this the other day. I'm very visual, so I usually draw, but I'm gonna try and break this down. So essentially think of it like this. You are, let's just pretend there's an ocean, okay? And I take a cup and I scoop out that ocean. Most people would look at that cup of water and be like, oh, that's water. No, actually, that is the ocean in this little cup. Let's just say that ocean is spirit. And then we dye that water red. Now that water, that spirit is red. That would be the soul. So it's personalizing and individualizing that water, that ocean. Most people won't recognize that they were actually the water, or they'll think that they're red water, but most of us will think that we're actually the cup. The cup was the body. The soul, which is where the ego resides, was the color of the water, and then the actual water was what we were. We were broken off of the main thing. So I tell people the ego is essentially the soul's mechanism for it to remember that it was the water and it wasn't the color. It's just like a weight room. Like I need resistance for me to get stronger. So the ego is developed around age 1 or 2 as a physical identity in the world to develop attachment to it. So then we can start the process of detaching over the course of our lifetime. And it's when you look at it on a universal level, it's really quite fascinating that we even have an ego, because it was the one thing for us to remember what we were. It's like we had to forget for us to remember. And the ego is what the thing that helps us to remember by having us forget.
Yeah. And I haven't dug too deep into ego. And we're not going to dig too deep into ego on this podcast, because I feel like that's a podcast in itself. But it's like, I play with the question. It's like, they say kind of like you remove the ego, but I like that you said that we had to build the ego so we can remember who we were. I like that you framed it like that. It's having my mind ponder on it, but I love that you framed it in that way. So we do need the ego, so we can so it can help us in our journey to not find ourselves, but to just remember who we truly are in the core.
I always tell people that because I've read books like, I think Ryan Holiday said the ego is the enemy, and it's like the ego is not the enemy no more than a car is a weapon. I can use the car as a weapon, or I could use that as a tool. And that's what the ego is. The ego is a tool, but if we're not aware of what it is and how it works, it then uses itself as a weapon. So it's the awareness. That's what the ego, I tell people first and foremost, like when you have awareness, you can use the ego instead of the ego using you. So, yeah.
That was a dynamic analogy. Dynamic. Yeah. I love the car as a reference to the ego. That was truly dynamic. So someone listening to this may be like, okay, I get what you guys are saying, but I've been living like this for 40 plus years, and they just feel stuck. Like I hear you saying, change your mindset, change your life, change your mindset, change your life. But like, what do I do? Like, how do I even start?
So when I told you I was going through that tough time in 2019, I knew none of this. This conversation that you and I are having, I knew none of this stuff, zero of it. And I would just go hire a babysitter. Mind you, I had no like money to pay the babysitter. I was on unemployment. And I would go hire the babysitter and go sit out in the woods with a chair and a notebook. Before I knew what journaling was, I didn't know what shadow work, I didn't know what any of this stuff was. And I would just sit down and write down all the things that I'm afraid of, all of my fears, all of my insecurities. Little did I know at the time what I was doing. I was shining my flashlight of awareness on the ego. The ego is what feels fear. The ego is what feels insecurity. The ego is what made you think you weren't enough. But if we liken the ego to darkness, darkness can never exist wherever there's light. So when I shine my light of awareness on it, that darkness disappears. So I just started doing this. And essentially what happened was I started to become aware of why I was the way I was. See, a lot of people don't know why they are the way they are. They just accept that that's what I am. But everything in this universe is a cause and effect. So you don't feel like you're enough because of something that happened in your past. But you won't go there because the ego says, wait, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to touch that. That's But if you go and sit in that place with that child, that part of you that has not been reconciled, that will actually be the gateway to you believing in yourself even more down the road. So I tell people all the time, like, we know Kim Kardashian, we know about LeBron James's life, but how much do you know about your own life? We'll read Michelle Obama's book, but will we read our own book that we are writing right now? Go back and read the past chapters. Go back and read the forward. Go back and read all of those parts of your life, the good chapters and the bad chapters. And by doing this, what happens, Unique, is you expand your level of self-awareness. And as my self-awareness expands, guess what? My self-worth goes up. And as my self-worth goes up, everything else around me has to expand as well. So I tell people, if you want the easy, go figure out who you are and why you are the way you are. And that'll take care of it all right there.
Yeah, you got to go back to go forward.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a question. You went out into the woods. What made you go out into the woods? Like, what was it, your intuition? Like, what made you do that?
I can tell you the 3D version. The reason why I was so in such a low place and so ashamed of myself and so dejected. I wanted to go somewhere where I knew nobody would ever find me. I wanted to go to a place where I knew nobody would ever be like, oh, hey, there's Derick Grant. So I would just go sit off. And there was and now that I look at it, it was literally the universe like taking me back in, like grounding me back in with nature, becoming one with that which I actually am. And I mean, I used to go out there, I would literally hear like, so people say, oh, what's your purpose? I got my purpose and what my mission was when I went out there in the woods. I was walking back to my car and I heard, thought popped in. You're here to help people remember what they were capable of before they forgot. And I went and wrote it down real quick. I'm like, I know what I'm here to do. I know what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you remember how special, how unique, and how magnificent you could be. And you, and you, and you. And that's, I say I was led there, but logically it's going to say, oh, I just want to go sit out in the woods. So yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because a lot of times when people are maybe are looking for help, they're looking to see what someone else did and maybe being inspired by someone else. But I talk on this podcast a lot about there's no magic blue pill, like it's a journey. You got to put the work in, and also what may work for me may not work for you. So intuitively tune into yourself to figure out what you need to do. And intuitively, I'm assuming intuitively, you went to the woods, and intuitively for someone else, it may be, I don't know, the beach, or it just may be the water, may be their place that they need to go to remember themselves. But I just want to emphasize that listen to your inner self. because it sounds like you got to a place that you were so low that you had no choice but to listen to your inner self, you know.
That's so good. And I tell people, your intuition speaks very quietly, very softly, and you have to be quiet to hear it. And when you understand energies and frequency and everything, like, you are the earth. You are remember, as above, so below. The earth is the above. You are the below. You are just the microcosm that makes up the macro. So whether it's nature, whether it's the beach, it looks different for everybody. Find what resonates with you. And you're right. You got to do the work. And my work may look different than somebody else's. You have to be in touch. And I always tell people, your intuition, they tell you right there, in means inside, tuition means to learn. Your inner teacher is in there. You already have it with you. So taking that time to be still, be quiet is vital. That's huge self-care, self-love, is taking time to be quiet.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that you definitely need to be still and be quiet to hear, you know, the next step, because that's a lot of times it's like, what's the next step? Lord, tell me what's the next step, you know. Get quiet, you know, get quiet, and we'll gently tell you, because the same thing, it's like when I hear the messages, it's not screaming at me, it's just these little gentle nudges. And when we get quiet, we start to understand that. But if we're busy, constantly busy all the time, then how can we ever be quiet enough to hear it? You know, we're getting distracted by everyone else's egos and balls being thrown at us all day.
Right. No,
we can't even hear our own selves, you know? So, okay. So okay, so we really been touching on a lot in one at the same time, you know, it's like we were talking about listening to ourselves and starting the process of healing. But can you dig into healing a little bit more? Because you understood that your process for healing was you know, listening to yourself, start the journaling, going backwards, you know. Could you dig into it a little bit more so people can start to just hear more messages around what they want to start, the steps that they may want to start looking towards when their healing journey of not feeling so stuck and remembering life is mental?
I think that probably the important thing when I was starting on this journey of really healing, I thought I would get to a point where the work would be done. And there is no destination. You'll never be done. So you might as well go ahead and turn your shot clock off, turn off the stopwatch. There is no point where you'll be like, oh, I did it all. When you know that, you can settle in. That's what it means to be patient. Because patience is basically, there is no time. And so now every year, my goals for the year is always getting to know myself better. But I know the only way to get to know myself better is to go back and heal that little boy, to go back and let that 8-year-old, that 10-year-old, that 12-year-old, to let him know that he was enough and that he didn't need the validation or approval of mom or dad or anybody else. So I always tell people, do the work, especially if you have children, because our children come into their lives with more self-awareness than we have. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we work on ourselves so we can give our children permission to work on themselves. So everybody's healing journey is different, but what has helped me immensely is really just asking questions. Us as human beings have the ability to contemplate and reflect. When you ask questions, you will find the answers. But how often do you ask questions about why you are the way you are? If you're not, and that's why I wanted to know, okay, if I want to understand quantum physics, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. But if I want to understand me and who I am and why I am, I need to ask questions as well. So this is what I should start doing. And the answers, I always tell people, the answer comes first, then the question. So this is what throws us off with life. We get taught the opposite in school. We get the answer. We get the question, and then we'll get the answer. You already have the answer, but the answer has no context because you haven't been asking the question. So if I give you, let's just say I write down a piece of paper, 4, and I give it to you, you're like, what is this? But then maybe 2 years later, someone tells you, hey, you got to remember this number. And if you can remember, you're like, 4, you have the answer the whole time.
Yeah.
But there's no question, there's no context behind it. So I can tell you this, one thing that has helped immensely, I do this in the shower a lot. I'll just ask questions. I'll come up with 50 questions of stuff that I want the answer to. And then by asking it, I'm opening my eyes to see what the answer is. And 9 times out of 10, that answer was already there. I just didn't have the eyes to see it because I had never asked the question.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that like thought process, because the answers are truly already within us. And I even have like the subtitle on my book. I'm like, you hold the key to your life's journey. It's like we're looking for everyone else to like hand us a key. Like, no, the key is in your hand.
Yes.
You have the key, and the master key is for you. It's not for someone else's door, and it's not for you to take someone else's key. Their programming. It's not going to open your house. You have the you have the key.
That is so good.
And I love that you said, the answers are already there. And I also love that you dug in, that you are constantly asking yourself questions. And I think asking yourself questions is just so much deeper as well, too, than like saying, well, what's the next step? You know what? Asking yourself questions allows you to start to understand more about yourself, like you were saying. Just understanding that, like, we may not understand why we get like fidgety all the time or whatever. I don't know. I can't even think of an example.
Sure, yeah, no.
But just starting to have these personal conversations with you on you.
That's it. And I always tell people, like, it's the quality of your question matters. So an example, how do I grow the business? How do I grow my business? Instead of asking that question, I ask the question below that. Why do you want to grow the business?
Yes.
So now by asking why, I can see, is this a conscious motivation or is this an unconscious motivation?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's unconscious, it's the ego. If it's conscious, it's the spirit looking to create. And so.
Yeah. You, can you think off the top of your head, like, because someone may be thinking like, okay, it sounds like, okay, I need to ask myself questions. Well, where do I even start? Like, can you give, like, let's say 2 questions for the listeners to kind of ponder on with themselves, if you can think of 2, or maybe two journaling questions that you do, or do you have a book on questions?
I actually do have a journal that's coming out here. But that's a whole nother what I do is I started off writing my fears and insecurities, and then let's just say my biggest fear is that people may not think that I'm good enough. I'll take that one topic and now I'm just going to dissect that. Well, why are you worried, Derick, about people not thinking you're good enough? And then I go ahead and answer it. Oh, because I want to be liked. Okay. Why do you want to be liked, Derick? I don't know. It makes me feel good. Well, why does that make you feel good? And I just keep asking why and keep asking why and keep asking, almost like a 5-year-old child. And what's going to happen is, if you're honest, it's going to start to show itself back in your childhood. And when you get to the root of it, you will see that you were essentially just using that situation as a placeholder for what you didn't do for yourself. So really, I want people to approve of me because I really wanted the approval of my dad. But it's not that you wanted the approval of your dad, you wanted the approval of yourself. Because once you approve of yourself, you won't need the approval of anybody else. So asking why. It usually takes 4 or 5 times of asking why and getting to the bottom of it. Once you get to the bottom of it, you'll see it was you. It was always you.
And I love that you did it. You started, because when you started with the answer, fears and insecurity. You said, so
that's good. I didn't even realize.
Perfect example. Because you said earlier you start with the answer, and then you will go back and you'll find the question. And so there you go. You start with the answer of fears and insecurity, and it, the questions came upon it. And yes. Okay.
That's
so
it.
Then, okay. So this is a good practice, like a good exercise. And I'm just thinking of how I can really incorporate this into my life. Just put the word down and then kind of go with it. Wow.
Reverse engineer.
Wow.
Yes.
That was really, really good. Like, I was like, really, almost like, he did it. He did it. He gave us the answer, and then he went backwards with it. Oh my God. Okay. So what advice would you give someone that is, we said they were stuck and they're ready to move forward. They're starting the journey, but they're having a hard time keeping the momentum, because we can be in the mindset that, oh, I'm changing my mind, life is meant to, but you're still in the same environment. You can't change. You can, yes, we say you can, but you're in the environment you're in. And a lot of times, but we're a product of our environment, and and you're the one person trying to like climb out, and then the distractions are there. Real life is in play, bills are in play, all this stuff is in play that's chipping away. Do you have like a piece of advice that you can help them, push forward?
Yeah. So we have 6 higher faculties of our mind, or 6 mind muscles. They're imagination, memory, intuition, reason, willpower, and perception. These are the 6 tools that we have to create our life. No other creature has these. Imagination, willpower, and perception are the 3 most important in terms of getting you off the ground. So people always say, well, you don't understand the environment I'm in. Understand that. Your environment, wherever you are, is on the physical plane. The physical plane will always come last. So your job is not to be confined mentally to where you are physically. And this is where I try to tell people, that's why we have been gifted and blessed with this thing called the imagination. The imagination had no boundaries. It could not be confined. So this is why every time, like my kids, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and every Saturday we have imagination time. It's like a muscle. You have to strengthen it. And the stronger your imagination is, now you'll be able to see yourself outside of your environment or outside of your circumstances, even though it doesn't look like it's happening. So what helps me, because I felt stuck, and I thought about it like, what is this meaning of stuck? What is that? Being stuck is when you lose perspective of where you are. You have to understand your journey. It's literally like a book. Not every chapter in a book is great. Not every sentence is great, but those quote unquote bad sentences, those bad chapters give context to the great chapters. How do we know if something was ever good if we never had anything that was bad? So just by having that perspective, I can embrace what I'm dealing with right now. I can rejoice in tribulation. So now I have the correct perspective of being able to work myself out of it, because I'm seeing the good. I don't know why yet, but I know this is going to work out for me. I know this is going to help me some way, shape, or form. So I always tell people this: if you want to get unstuck, ask yourself these 2 questions. What is this teaching me? What would I do differently if I could go back and do this over again? And when you can answer those 2 questions, the situation, the circumstances that you were in will change drastically, because now you've just gotten the lesson that situation was trying to teach you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That was just so powerful. So powerful. So powerful to understand that we have the power of imagination.
I get goosebumps when look at the room that you're in.
Yeah.
Everything is literally a physical construct of somebody's imagination at one point. Everything. Exactly. Your life is literally just the result of your imagination. Exactly. And it had no boundaries. I could go on for hours about the imagination, how powerful it is. But yeah, no, you're spot on.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was a teenager, 20 years, there was no iPhone. There was no a touch screen phone. And just thinking back to when I was in high school, I was in my 20s, I could not have even fathomed touching. I remember when texting came out, you had to do it like from a computer to a telephone. And I was like, it's this thing, you can send a message. I remember telling my you can have to log this computer on and send me. It just seemed like a foreign thing, but now it's like, it's so normal now. This is the only thing, but this came from someone's mind. And if they didn't have that time with themselves,
seriously,
and stayed in that quiet zone, how would they have been able to come up with these ideas to say, hey, I want to create this thing called texting. Instead of us talking, let's just send messages by texting. Or whatever it is, and just understanding that that's just one element of the imagination, but just understanding that, like you said, we have the power within us, but we
Yep.
just have to, like your shirt says, I really think your shirt just sums up everything. Life is truly mental. And once
Yeah.
we grasp that, forget about what all the circumstances, going on around you. Once you can go ahead and understand life is mental, you can start to shift the needle, start to
Yes.
change the narrative. And,
Yes.
I'm even looking back at myself, when I made that mental change 5 years ago, the accomplishments I've done by just changing the mindset, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So and even if it's the smallest micro things, like, that is something, an accomplishment for you. You don't have to
Absolutely.
go over here and say, I'm going to be the CEO of this company. And but that's, again, is this the ego or is this your higher self talking,
Right.
But like
Right.
I say, I just look back, it could be the smallest things, and it's just like, wow, like I did that
Mm.
because my mindset was there. And so, and I think back, like I've done more in this past 5 years than I did like all of my adult life. Yes,
Wow.
because of the shift that I had within my mind and saying, okay, this is my time. I'm going to start shifting the energy to me.
Yeah. It's so powerful. The analogy I like to use to get to like make it simple for people, your life is just a mirror. That's all it is. Just a
Mm,
mirror. Same technology as a mirror. When
yes.
I look at a mirror and I smile at a mirror, that mirror will only reflect whatever I am in that present moment. Not what I'm going to do or what I was, only at that moment. Life is the same way. Life, here's what we don't understand though. We're like, oh, well, I've changed my mindset and it's not happening yet. Just like when you smile at a mirror, there's actually a slight delay from when that light reflects. We can't pick it up with our eyes, but there is a delay. It does not happen right away. It's a split second that it takes light to travel. The same goes in our life. Your life will not mirror your internal thoughts and your emotions right away. There is a delay. That's why you've been gifted with willpower.
Mm,
Willpower was the ability to still tell yourself that I was capable, I was enough, and I was whole, even when it didn't look like it yet in the reflection.
mhm,
And so now, like my life, I constantly ask myself, what do I want the reflection to look like? And
mm,
now it's my responsibility to create the image.
I like that. What do I want the reflection to look like? That's a beautiful question.
Yeah.
What do I want? What do I want the reflection to look like? I have to write that down.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're about to today. I think has been so powerful with just really understanding the idea that life is truly, truly meant to. And we're going to start to close out the show. But do you have any last notes or messages for anyone out there?
I always tell people, like, send me a DM, go to my website, send me an email. I encourage people to reach out to me because I like this is part of my journey. This is part of my mission as to why I'm here. So I may not be able to help you on the level that you want me to, but I can at least give you maybe I may say the one thing that may
Mhm.
connect things and blow things open for you. But I always tell people, I encourage them to reach out and remember, like your life, and you're going to be whatever you believe you are. Period. That's all
Yeah.
your life is. Whatever you believe you are, that's what you're going to be. Stop worrying about what everybody else says. Stop worrying about what the world says. It does not matter. It only mattered what you thought. And when
Mhm.
you know that, it really just becomes you versus you. And that's the beauty of it. It's just you. So
Yeah.
that's it in a nutshell for me.
You versus you. That's right. That needs to be another t-shirt. And you're like,
I
you
know, right?
you. Life is mental. You versus you, and the reflection of you in the mirror. Yes.
Yes.
That is a good one. You versus you. Oh my goodness. So, 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 so amazing. And I can't let you go yet because I ask every guest this question. And that is, what does becoming unique mean to you?
Mm. Okay, so I'm real big into like definitions, etymology of words, and the word unique. I see the word UNI, which means one, uniform, universe, unicorn, unicycle. That means one, right? But then I look at becoming. Be means to exist. Comes from the Latin, the Old English word beyond, which means to exist. So I have to exist as the one thing that I am. There is not another one like me. And when
Mm.
I exist as that, that's what it means to become unique.
Mm.
There was not another one like you, and embracing that. So that's just kind of my perspective. And I think we're all unique. We're all special. We're all like, we were never supposed to be like anyone or anything else, because that's what made us so special. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I've never had anyone break it down like that. And I love that. I absolutely love it. And I always say to myself, like, my mother named me Unique. There's no story behind it. She just named me Unique. But I'm like, it wasn't by mistake. It was it was, and when I said becoming unique, I was like, this is not my journey. This is all of our journeys.
I love it. I love it.
But it's my name behind it, but it's not my journey. It's all of our journeys. And this is the whole, messaging that I want behind the Becoming Unique platform. This is all of us vibrating higher, not just me.
I love it.
Not just me. Oh my goodness. You have been nothing but amazingness today. And I completely appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me.
Well, thank you. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for providing a space and giving people permission to become unique. Because I think that's what it was all about, giving each other the space and permission to say, hey, like, go be who you are, own who you are, find who you are, own who you are, and then go be it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you. Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste.